Now we're going to take a look at comparing two data sets using the mean, median, mode, and potentially the range and any outliers as well. So first we need to calculate the mean, median, and mode for each data set. So I'm going to start with first hour. Again, the mean, or X bar, is all of the data values added together, divided by, we have 10 data values. So I got for a mean 74.1 if you would like to practice and double check. Median, remember when we put the data values in order least to greatest, we look at the middle number. There's 10 data values. There were two numbers that were in the middle. 78 was the fifth data value, and the other 78 was the sixth data value. So if you add those together and divide by 2, you get 78 for the median. The mode, when you look through the data set, we had two data values of 78, and then we also had two data values of 87. So this data set is what's called bimodal because there are two modes. So that is our first hour. Fourth hour, same thing, again, the mean, add all of the data values and divide by 10, we got 81.9. For the median, there were two numbers again in the middle of the data set because we had an even number. 81 was the fifth data value, and 84 was the sixth data value. So you add those together and divide by 2 to get a median of 82.5. This data set only had one mode. The number that occurred twice was 78. All right, so now in order to compare these data sets, we can take a look at what this information tells us. So the mean for fourth hour was higher than the mean for first hour. The median for fourth hour was higher than the median for first hour. And though the mode for first hour, one of the modes was higher, looking at the first two data values, I would say overall fourth hour performed better. Next, we're going to take a look at the range. Remember, the range tells us how varied or different the data values are from one another. So for my first hour, the range was 97 minus 42, or 55. For my fourth hour, the range was 99 minus 53, which gives us a range of 46. Now, when we're talking about test scores, both of these ranges seem large to me. It means you had a wide variety of abilities or performances on the test. Again, looking first hour is larger, so there was a wider range of abilities. Also, there's potentially, just looking at the range, an outlier for the first hour. So larger spread for first hour, though both ranges show a variety of performances on the test. All right, now, as I mentioned, this last one we're looking at outliers. Just by looking at the range, you might think first hour had the outlier. But when you look at the data set in order, and I didn't want to take the time to put them in order, but when you look at first hour, they had a data value of 42, that was the lowest. The next lowest was 48. So I wouldn't say that 42 was significantly smaller than 48. And then when you look at the high end, the two highest data values were 94 and 97, which again, no significant difference between the two. Looking at the fourth hour, the lowest data value was 53. The next lowest was 67. That's a 14-point difference in performances. That's potentially an outlier. There actually is a way to calculate the outliers we're not gonna go through that, we're just gonna kind of eyeball and see what we think. And then on the high end, 96 and 99. So no outlier on the high end, potentially a low outlier for the 4th hour, but none, I would say, for the 1st hour. Those data values were similar enough to one another. So I would say, again, potentially 53 was an outlier for 4th hour. Otherwise, data sets seem similar. So again, how does it affect the data? It would make the mean, well, in this case, actually, going back, looking at the mean, I would say it's not an outlier. The mean was still higher for 4th hour than it was for 1st hour, and the range was still smaller. So I'm actually going to say, however, mean and range were not affected, so I do not believe 53 is a real outlier. I can show you the formula that we use for outliers when we get to what's called the 5-number summary. Right now, we don't quite know enough information to find the true outlier, so we just have to look at what the data set tells us and make an educated guess. And here is your U-try. Sorry about the bell.